Welcome to The Road Reflected with Nicole Wakelin. Automotive from the lighter side. That means cars, but also cookies, coffee, and pie. Up first, what's Nicole behind the wheel of this week?
Okay, before I get to what I'm driving this week, for the first time ever, I have a guest. There she is, Lyn Woodward. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I know, and you're my first guest. Thank you for being my guinea pig.
Absolutely. I feel like there's an inaugural crown I should be wearing, but
I could probably arrange some kind of paper crown next time I see you, Lyn. I feel like we could make that happen. So Lyn Woodward is just all things amazing when it comes to automotive. She reviews, she writes, she does crazy races like the Bell, and she's just all around amazing. And she's where are you these days?
I'm based in Los Angeles, and primarily I do video reviews for Kelley Blue Book, and that's where you can find me on our YouTube channel or on kbb.com.
Excellent. So, okay, Lyn, we're going to talk about first, I don't know if you've driven this. I have the 2023 Dodge Charger Swinger. Have you driven this?
I have not, but I definitely have heard a lot about it. I'm dying to hear what you think about it.
Okay, so real quick, this is a part of the last call that they're doing for Charger and for Challenger. So this is a saying goodbye to the muscle car.
Monroney moment.
Okay, so the 2023 Dodge Charger Swinger Special Edition, 1,000 units they made, 6.4 liter V8 with an 8-speed automatic. It has 458 horsepower, 475 pound-feet of torque, and it costs about $65,000. Lyn, would you buy this if you had $65,000 to burn?
No,
you wouldn't. Why not?
I'm not a huge muscle car person. I mean, I definitely have an appreciation for them, but it's not really I'm not American muscle. British muscle cars, yeah, I'd be all in for something like that, but like one of those old AC Cobras or like that. Although that's kind of American and kind of British, but maybe that's as American as I get. But I do think it's really interesting kind of what they're doing now, but also what they're planning in the future. I'm so interested to see what the Mopar Mafia kind of think about that.
I love that they called it, is it the am I saying it right? I think that's the new sound that they're going to have, because muscle cars have to be noisy and obnoxious, right? That's a rule. So what do you do when you make it an electric vehicle and it goes
I think they're adding on the Banshee model, which is the top model. I mean, feel like that's appropriate. They're going to be adding a 126 decibel exhaust sound, some kind of listen, you could, for all intents and purposes, put any sound up against an EV, even on one of those tiny little, a Chevy Bolt. You could put something kind of coming out of it. But it's going to be really interesting to me to see how it's received.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for people to make this this sort of switch. It's funny, sharing stuff about this on social, people are either one of two things. I can't wait for this to disappear because it's killing the environment, or they will, take away my gas powered car when they peel it from my cold dead fingers. There's people are either really excited or hate it.
Well, I think, and this is just maybe in my personal experience, but I do think a lot of people who gravitate toward those American muscle cars also, they kind of like getting under the hood and they like getting their hands dirty. And that's sort of part of the allure of it, right? And when you take that element away, then you do lose a little bit of a connection with your car. I've had a couple of cars that I've done the majority of the work on, and it definitely it brings you closer to your car. It's more of a, you kind of are like, oh, I know this thing inside out because I've worked on it. And that's just not even a possibility on an EV. So I feel like that's part of it, that people are going to lose sort of a personal connection to their vehicle. And especially when you're talking, a muscle car, that's so much a part of the allure of those vehicles.
Exactly. It does change it. I feel like people who are really into muscle cars, they're going to be sad. And I kind of don't blame them. If you really like that, if you like being able to rent your own car, if you like being able to, tune it the way you want to tune it and, change everything to make it exactly, it's not just your Dodge. It's not just a Dodge Charger. It's your Dodge Charger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's exactly yours, exactly the way you want it. It's got to be hard to say goodbye to that. It's
going to be it's going to be a long goodbye. I mean, I 100% believe that. I feel like these cars, even the classic 60s muscle cars, it's going to be a while before we say goodbye to that completely. So it'll be really interesting to see how, especially a state like California, which is where I live, that is sort of running full bore into electrification, like almost blindly, I think. I feel like it's going to be really interesting to see like what happens to gas stations and where, like, all of these things. But I do believe truly that the collector market, that the enthusiast element of it, driving on tracks or like kind of hanging on to your gas powered vehicles, is going to be a very, very long goodbye, if ever a goodbye.
Yeah. And they're calling this last call because it's just the last sort of version of this type of Charger and Challenger. Like, they're not really, like, they're gone, but they're not really gone, which even sort of, goes to what you're saying. We're not making them like this anymore, but we're going to kind of sort of maybe make them just a little bit different. So it's sort of shifting people. And I like that they did this whole run. I like that they had these sort of, like, this one's the vintagey one, like Swinger, which I do feel like a little bit like a dork. I'm like, this is just the name of the car. Please don't assume anything about the person behind the wheel.
I'm not promoting any kind of lifestyle.
Right.
I
just need to clarify that. But it is fun. It's got like this funky color. They call it F8 green. So it's like this. You remember avocado green was like the color, and harvest gold. This is like the avocado green of cars, which is kind of fun. And they, there's this giant Swinger sticker on the side. It's like, oh Lord. But I did have, Lyn, this is so funny. The one person who said anything to me about this was a little old lady in the grocery store parking lot. And what she actually says is, oh, I love your car. That color is so pretty. I love that. The Swinger. I love that. And I was like, thanks.
She was having a memory.
That's what I'm like, is she like channeling her youth or something? Because she was a mature lady, and I appreciate that she looked at a limited run Dodge Charger and was like, yeah, that's a cool car.
I think Dodge is really smart to do that. They're looking to sort of create the new classic. But yeah, it's gonna be hard to it's going to be a tough transition. As human beings, change for us on a collective is very difficult anyway. And so this one, especially when there is such an emotional connection with cars, all you have to do is go online and type in on YouTube, like, son surprising dad with car. And there's like a billion videos of like, oh, my dad drove this when he was a kid, or this is what my parents brought me home from the hospital in. There's so many things, and we do really get emotionally attached to cars. So I feel like, Dodge is very wise and very smart to sort of to give people a final look. It's hard to even say. Like, it's sort of weird.
It's gonna be.
I'm all for EVs. Like, I think that the technology is going to be really interesting, and it's going to be really great, and we're in this incredible time. But yeah, the diehards are gonna kick and scream.
And it's going to be hard to say goodbye when all these muscle cars are gone. Okay, everyone, if you like what you're listening to, then go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe either on YouTube or your favorite podcatcher of choice. So normally I talk about another car in segment 2, but Lyn, this is the Lyn segment. Lyn, what would you like to talk about?
So, like Nicole, I go on a lot of trips, and I drive a lot of things, and I feel really fortunate. And there is the off occasion when I also get to go out and kind of drive something kind of my own accord, which is always really nice. And I just recently went out to Morocco with a bunch of women who are avid off-road enthusiasts and off-road racers and rally drivers and navigators. And we had this amazing intention of like going out, and we had these rally prepped trucks that we were going to rent from a really reputable company. And the only thing that we thought, oh, this could be a little bit of a, I don't know, just like a little issue was currently, like, right as we were getting there was another Moroccan rally. I think it was the Morocco Desert Challenge that was happening there.
Okay.
By the way, if you like Morocco, if you like desert challenges or like rallies, like go to Morocco because they literally have one like it seems like every other weekend. Like it's crazy.
So you can just pick one, like whatever weekend you're there, there's going to be something.
Yeah, that is like the place to go to rally your butt off. The only problem was these trucks that we had been promised by this guy were being used for the Morocco Desert Challenge. And so we get to Marrakesh and the guy's like, yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes, half an hour. Oh, traffic. And we're looking at the thing and we're like, we don't see any traffic in Marrakesh. Like, and he was obviously just like kind of trying to like riff and like buy some time because he absolutely 100% did not have the cars. So he delivered us a Jeep Wrangler. It was the Sahara. It was the 4-cylinder Sahara.
Oh gosh.
No. And dude, it wasn't even like an oh gosh moment for there because it like clearly someone had forgotten how to put it had the weekender route, like the rooftops, like the T-tops almost that fly off. Well, they hadn't attached them properly and one clearly flew off. And I mean, I thought someone had rolled the car. Like that's how
it was that bad. Oh no.
There were rattles on rattles on rattles. Okay. So that was one of the cars. There were 7 of us. So we needed three vehicles in order to do all this. So that was one car that they get, and they literally rented this from like, I don't know, like rent a camel. It was so crazy.
Rent a camel or rent a beat up Jeep. Same thing.
Same thing. Maybe a camel lived in this Wrangler.
Possible.
I can't tell, but it was like already a Wrangler is definitely like not a super comfortable road. Let's be on the road. Like it's very kind of an analog feeling when you're driving it. And then like you just add on the fact that this was a rental in a place where like no one really gives a rat's what about rental. So we got that. And then like because we still did not have enough cars, then he sent us 2 more Toyota Prados, which we don't actually have here in the States.
What is that? What's that like comparable to?
A Prado is built on the Hilux chassis, which is a truck. So it's body on frame. It's basically, I would say, like maybe a smaller version of or slightly bigger version of the Highlander, kind of around face.
So Highlander-ish.
Highlander-ish, 2 rows, but 4x4, like so 4x4 capable.
Okay.
Body on frame. And yeah, so we got 2 of those. One of them, which was previous generation, and then one that was like current generation. And the previous generation one, which of course was the one that me and my friends Emmy and Rebecca were in, it came compliments of like, I don't know, someone who decided they wanted to just completely bust the shock. The shocks were completely blown.
Oh, no.
So we were just like all over the place, like the compression on that thing was so insane. And we're like, okay, well, I guess we're in Northern Africa and this is just what you do. And it was a whole different approach to kind of embracing your situation. Here in the United States, I think we're a little bit, we're so spoiled that we're like, well, this is what I ordered. And so this is what I should get. And it should be on time. And there's a contract, but there it's like, you get what you get. And
so you're just lucky that you actually got something that was considered a like working vehicle that they were willing to give you. Like forget any particularities. It's like it runs, you fit in it, go ahead.
Yeah. And good luck because we went over the Atlas Mountains and we crossed the Atlas Desert in them. And so it was like, okay, well, we have to obviously protect the vehicle, which is something we always do. I'm always really, careful about that stuff because it's not my car and I don't want to wreck it and have to come back and own it or buy it or fix it.
I kind of wish you had to own it because I would love to see you trying to get that back to the US and tooling around California and that.
So yeah, it was an adventure on top of the Moroccan adventure. And like I said, it was a really good lesson to kind of remember, like when you're not in Rome, you're somewhere else, like you're just dealing with the sort of the rules and the laws and the ways of another culture and another. And listen, these guys were so nice, and I could tell they just didn't want to disappoint us, and so that's why they didn't really tell us. But it was just it was an interesting learning process. But once we got the vehicles, we were able to laugh about it afterwards, and it was a very successful trip. We crossed the Atlas Desert. It was fabulous.
So when you're crossing this desert, is there any kind of road? I'm going to do air quotes that only Lyn can see, or are you just kind of going?
They're all dirt roads. I mean, it's very similar to kind of the terrain that you would have driven in the Rebelle Rally. It looks very similar to the California desert. You know, there's just like kind of wide open, except for those like those acacia trees. Those are the trees that are that are flat up on top and looks like a giraffe is about to like walk underneath it, and the Lion King is about to sing, you know, Hakuna Matata or whatever.
Okay.
Because those are like those quintessential African trees. So except for those, everything felt really familiar. But these are their main roads that cut across the continent or the country. There a lot of them. They're trying to pave a lot of them, but at some point the pavement stops, and then it's just like it's all dirt.
And so is this like, because you guys did this as an adventure, like a one-off thing, like y'all went over there as an adventure. Is that what you're seeing in terms of people on this road, or like regular folks like, I need to get point A to B and this is how you get there? Or are they people out adventuring like you were?
We didn't see that many people. I mean, but it's so interesting because there definitely are, I'll call them, you know, like Airbnbs, but they're like riads or like, not the riads are more in the city, but they were like these little places where you could stay, and they were sort of dotted along the way, but it was just literally like it would come out of nowhere, and it would be this like sort of this, you know, very Moroccan, you know, a lot of Arab influence there because you're sort of more at the northern part. So part African, part Arab influence. And yeah, they would just pop out of nowhere, and there's people out there because then people would like see our trucks coming and they would rush like these little kids. They'd ask for water. They'd ask for pens.
Pens?
You go to Morocco, take a lot of pens.
Why are pens a big thing?
These kids have nothing. So they were like, stilo, and they all speak French. But they wanted water, they wanted l'eau, they wanted stilo, they wanted a pen, and they wanted bonbons. So they want candy.
Candy? Well, what kid doesn't want candy? Whether you have everything or nothing, candy. Like,
right? So we did not see a whole lot of people out there. We definitely saw some other people who were sort of desert running, who were in other vehicles, but maybe a handful or less in like the 3 or 4 days that it took us to get through the desert.
And did you break down, or did you make it in one piece the whole way?
Oh, there was no breaking down. We were all very cautious and very smart.
Very good. That sounds like that was...
You get a bunch of women out there and they're going to be real careful.
Of course they are. They're not going to go crazy. Hey, wait, did we just drive by a bakery? Okay, we didn't actually just drive by a bakery. This time, I'm again handing this over to Lyn, and Lyn is going to talk about someplace really cool. We get all these neat places that we get to eat on these programs, and this like ridiculous food sometimes, and sometimes it's so fancy pants that it's silly, and you kind of think like I would just like a cheeseburger. But you went to a really cool place recently. Did you say it was on an Audi program that you were on? Yes, it was for the Q8 e-tron. So yes. Audi used to call it just the e-tron back when there was just one e-tron. But now that there's more e-trons, they have to actually like tell you which e-tron it is. And so, yeah, we went on this incredible drive up in Healdsburg, which is, if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of in Napa, California. So wine country. And it was, I don't know if you guys have all seen that movie, The Menu, but oh my gosh. So it's kind of crazy. Like it's this idea that all of these like super bougie and like rude people go to this very, very exclusive restaurant, like however many Michelin stars you can count on, you know, in the sky. And, and this chef who feels very, very kind of slighted and ignored because all of these people are just like, oh, I'm just here for the notoriety because I can, kind of a thing. Like they don't appreciate the food. They're just I am important enough to get this reservation, and totally. I'm rich enough to pay for the food. So that, totally. Yeah. And he ends up teaching them a lesson, let's say. It gets a little dark. It gets a little dark, but it's actually quite interesting. Yeah. But watch it if you haven't. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody.
But this restaurant that I went to, and we've been to a couple of these like Michelin star things where, there's like stuff like carrot foam or like weird like beet essence. Like it's just sort of kind of what is that? Like
it's really... like this weird gastronomic treat where you're trying, where you genuinely, until the waiter puts things down and says, you're like, I don't understand. I know that that's a cube of cucumber. What is everything else that's around it? You have no idea what you're looking at sometimes.
Right. Like it looks kind of like cat food on some levels.
And
like my cat eats. But this guy named Douglas Keene, and he has a partner, Nick Payton, who is the maitre d', and Doug Keene is the chef. He has had restaurants like kind of for a long time, but he kind of opened this place called Cyrus, Cyrus, up in Healdsburg. And he kind of is bringing this sort of new approach to this kind of dining. And, in his philosophy, it's like, you know what? More is not more, less is more. He wants to really wants to treat his employees fairly. And he says these kitchens have way too many people in them and they don't earn a fair wage. So he literally hires, probably like maybe 20 people, but they all make over $60,000 a year, which is a fairly livable wage, depending on where you are. And his philosophy is just like, look, I want this to be not pretentious, but I want people to come back in. He lets people walk into the kitchen while they're working.
Did you wander into the kitchen?
Oh my gosh, I totally wandered into the kitchen. The guy who washes the dishes can do sous chef stuff. So there's everyone rotates around. So there's a sense of ownership and there's not a hierarchy in there. And on top of that, the food was just absolutely spectacular. And it wasn't super fussy or weird. Like this is jelly. I don't even know what. But there was a little Asian influence, a little like California influence. Everything like obviously grows out in their garden, out in the back, in the back of this place. And they made you kind of walk around, like you didn't just sit in one spot for the entire dinner. You went from one spot to another spot for a couple of courses, and then to another spot for a couple of courses. Ooh. And then get this, you finish it off in their chocolate room, which is like,
wait, there's a whole room that's called the chocolate room?
There's a whole room that's the chocolate room. And they literally have a 500 pounds of chocolate waterfall.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
I want to go. I was all in for the whole experience. I'm like, this sounds cool. I'm like, oh, now I am really in. A chocolate room with a chocolate waterfall? Did they make you some crazy chocolate treats? Was it like one big thing or tiny little petit four type things?
Tiny little things, which he has like this sort of philosophy, like sweet, the 5 things, like sweet, salt, bitter, sour, and umami. And so each one of these chocolates, I kind of represented that little thing. You can't just go dip your fingers in the chocolate fountain. They don't let you.
Wait, Lyn, are you saying this because you tried and they asked you not to?
I'm sure I wasn't the only one, but that would be amazing. But yes, but that would also be kind of like not sanitary. And I'm pretty sure like the Michelin people would frown upon that.
That would lose a star. People were sticking their fingers in the fountain. One star gone.
Yeah, just put your mouth in.
Yeah, just like you're under a faucet outside in the summer. Just, all the chocolate.
But it was really a cool experience with delicious food. And it wasn't like fussy or snooty. And I will say a lot of the people who were having, in dinner that night, these are people who have been, dining in all kinds of crazy places all over the world, were blown away at how extraordinary this place was.
And that's really saying something, because truly, I don't think Lyn and I individually are the fanciest of fancy pants people, but they often take us to places like this that are just crazy. So if it stands out in your mind as being something exceptional, chances are it really is, because we get some amazing opportunities to try food and go to a chocolate room. Lyn, I'm super jealous of the chocolate room.
And I don't eat meat. I'm a pescatarian. I hate that word. I prefer fishitarian, but I eat fish. And so, but the folks at Audi had mistakenly told these people that I was a vegetarian.
Oh.
And like the first course that came out was this like yummy lobster thing. And I was like, no, I can eat that. Like I want to eat that. And this lovely man, Nick Payton, he was like, well, we have you down as a vegetarian. And I'm like, but do you have one more little piece of lobster back there? And these guys pivoted, no problem. And they totally got me hooked in with all the seafood, and the fish was absolutely unreal.
Well, you'll have to come up here one day, Lyn, because I'm in the Northeast and we have lots of lobster.
I'm loving the lobster.
See, you could come. Lyn, thank you so much for coming on the show again. This is Lyn Woodward. You can find her over at Kelley Blue Book. She is absolutely amazing. Lyn, thank you so much.
Anytime.
Thanks for listening to The Road Reflected. To follow more of Nicole Wakeland's adventures, head on over to NicoleWakeland.com. There you'll find links to her social media from TikTok to Twitter, as well as her work across a wide range of media outlets. Until next time, keep it shiny side up.